welcome to Fun and Friends. I'm Avalon.
I'm Sabrina.
And I'm Jasmine.
And welcome to the channel.
Welcome.
We are doing School of Good and Evil
Today.
Chapter
number
3.
2. Chapter number 3.
Yay.
Just a recap of chapter number 2. They are back in their hometown, and the wedding for Sophie's family decided to get moved up so it wouldn't interfere with her weekend of her play, which is so not what she wanted. But Agatha is trying to smile and act happy because she knows that Sophie's happy and, they're safer here. And Sophie's trying to act happy because she thinks Agatha's happy back home. So they're both basically pretending to be happy and trying to be as happy as they can for each other. And Sophie had a nightmare at the beginning of our last chapter about a big, dark, scary wolf with 2 little boys. And I wonder if that might have any connection to anything. We'll see, but any foreboding there. Other than that, during the wedding, Agatha has come to the realization at the end of the chapter that the whole reason that the wedding got ruined and that something is shooting arrows constantly at Sophie where they are currently barricaded in the church is because she accidentally made a wish. Because she wished with all of her heart that her ending would be different. I think she misses a certain Ted Rose, and
it reminds me a little bit of another book that I'm reading personally that you've given me. It reminds me of that scene a little bit.
No spoilers. I'm in the middle of that book too.
No, you've already read that part. And, it's a Court of Mist and Fury during the wedding,
where she gets snatched.
where she's like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this.
Please,
somebody save me. And the Rhysand comes and takes her.
Yeah.
And
All
just
right.
like the chaos of it reminds me. I like it.
I read that chapter so long ago, I actually forgot that happened to you. So I was like, oh yeah. I
me
read to
from
like
Tabler.
chapter 15, like pre-Christmas, and then I like closed the book and kind of took a break from it just because got burnt out reading too much, and then I
Please save me from Tamlin.
got re-binging into it.
Yeah, I just finished the entire series. I love it so much.
Anyways, if you are like 18 or older, you could go ahead and read that book. I recommend it.
Yeah.
I recommend that series.
We're currently reading another series by the same author because we all loved her author. Yeah. But I feel like I always strongly identify with Farrah because she has like the exact same birthday as me, and I'm like, the Court of Frost and Starlight takes place over winter solstice and her birthday, and they're like celebrating Christmas and her birthday kind of at the same time, and I'm like,
you totally relate.
I totally relate to this. Anyway.
Back to this book.
Chapter 3, Breadcrumbs. The night they flattened Radley's house... Wait, what? That night, they flattened Radley's house first, with a boulder lobbed over the trees, then the crooked clock tower, which told broken moans as screaming villagers fled through the square. Soon, whole lanes went up to in splinters as parents clung to their children in the wells and ditches, watching rocks fly across the moon like meteors. Then the blitz ended at 4 a.m. Only half the town remained.
What?
Wow.
Apparently they killed off half the town.
Yeah, remember all the people who were attacking and threatening because they want Sophie?
Oh, yeah.
Some wish you had there, Agatha.
Yeah, let's go kill off the entire town.
That's a strong
We can
wish.
bring that closer. We're like routine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can always refill it after this chapter. Okay. The trembling villagers looked out at the theater, illuminated in the distance, the lights on its red curtain rearranged. Sophie or die. While Sophie slept calmly through all of this, Agatha sat trapped in the church, listening to the screams and thumps. Give them Sophie, and her best friend would die. Don't give them Sophie, and her whole town would die. Shame burnt in her throat. Somehow she reopened the gates between worlds. But to who? Who wanted Sophie dead? There had to be a way to fix this. If she reopened the gates, surely she could close them. First, she tried to make her finger glow again, focusing on the anger until her cheeks puffed. Anger at the assassins, anger at herself, anger at the stupid unlit finger that looked even paler than before. Then she tried doing spells anyway to repel the raiders, which went about as well as expected. She tried praying to the stained glass saints, wishing on a star, rubbing every lamp in the church for a genie, and then, when all failed miserably, she pried Sophie's pink lipstick from her fist and scratched, "Take me instead," on the dawn-lit window. To her surprise, she got an answer. No. Flames spelled across the forest fringe.
Can I just say this is really ironic? All the things she's desperately trying to doing after the last book, where she like didn't believe in fairy tales and was like, "Nope, none of this is real."
Nope. But now she's like, please, anything.
Give me anything.
For a moment through the trees, Agatha saw the glint of red. Then it was gone. Who are you? She wrote. Give us Sophie, the flames answered. Show yourself, she demanded. Give us Sophie. You can't have her, Agatha scrawled. A cannonball smashed through Sophie's statue in reply. Sophie stirred behind her, mumbling about the connection between poor sleep and pimples. Banging around in the dark, she lit a candle and streaked the hemlock rafters with a bronze glow. Then she did a few bumbling yoga moves, nibbled on an almond, rubbed her face with grapefruit seeds, trout scales, and cocoa cream, and twirled to Agatha with a sleepy smile. Morning, darling. What's your plan?
Wait. How did she go from her previous wispy, like, over-the-top voice to country bumpkin?
Because she said darling. I have to be, like, country.
I was thinking, like, morning, darling. Like,
I don't know.
yeah.
I always feel like darling is, like, a country thing to say. So I was like, I have to, just for this one. And then she can go back to her wispy self.
Okay.
Let me read my book. But hunched in the windowsill, Agatha just stared out the broken glass, and Sophie did too, at the level town, the homeless masses picking through the rubble, and her severed head statue gaping at her from the church steps. Sophie's smile slowly vanished. There's no plan, is there? Crack! The oak doors shivered as a hammer bashed away at the padlock. Crack! Crack! Assassins! Sophie cried.
Like her dad being like, here, take her.
Agatha leapt up in horror. The church is hollow ground. Boards snapped, screws loosened, and clinked to the floor. The girls...
Or it could be the schoolmaster.
It could be the schoolmaster, or it could be the town that is just angry because, like, they just got half of them killed.
From the school coming to...
True.
Tedros!
Oh, not Tedros, but someone has to explain to them what's going on, obviously.
Yeah.
So someone has to come crashing in.
Mm-hmm.
The girls backed against the altar. Hide! Agatha gasped, and Sophie ran around the lectern like a headless chicken. Something metal slipped into the door. A key! Agatha squeaked. They have a key! She heard the lock catch. Behind her, Sophie fluttered uselessly between the curtains. Hide now! Cried Agatha. The door crashed open, and she spun to the darkness threshold. Through the weak candlelight, a hunched black shadow slunk into the church. Agatha's heart stopped. No. The crooked shadow glided down the aisle, flickering in flame light. Agatha dropped to her knees against the altar. Her heart was rattling so hard she couldn't breathe. He's dead! Ripped to pieces by a white swan and thrown to the wind. His black swan feathers rained over the school far away. But now the schoolmaster was creeping towards her, very much alive, and Agatha cowered against the lectern with a shriek. What? So I guess he's still alive.
I guess so.
The situation has become untenable, said a voice, not the schoolmaster's. Agatha peeked through her fingers at the elder with the longest beard standing over her. Sophie must be moved to safety, said a younger elder behind him, doffing the black hat. She must be moved tonight, said the youngest.
This makes me think of, like, the beginning of, like, Harry Potter.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
We must move the boy tonight when they're all, like, meeting in...
Yes.
Actually, that's in the third movie. Yeah.
Fifth.
Okay.
That's when they all go on broomsticks over to Hogwarts.
Mm-hmm.
Or not to the Hogwarts, to the Burrow, and where Hedwig dies.
Gotcha.
Spoilers!
No, I was totally thinking...
Only 20 years out.
There was one where, like, he went to, like, the hideaway house where it split open. That was fifth?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, that tells you how long it's been since I've watched those movies. Woo!
At least I'm pretty sure the fifth one is the one where they go to the Burrow.
Okay. It's been a long time.
Or is that the sixth one? The one where they actually go on broomsticks, I think they go to the Burrow.
Okay.
Because Hedwig dies on the way over, and somebody gets their ear
ripped off, yeah.
messed up, I think, if I remember right.
I think it was one of the twins, right?
Yeah, one of the twins.
Yeah.
Anyways,
back to this. Sophie must be moved to safety, said the younger elder, doffing his black hat, and she must be moved tonight, said the youngest, at the rear, stroking his meager head. Where? A voice breathed. The elders looked up to see Sophie in a marble frieze over the altar, pressed against the naked saint. That's where you hid? Barked Agatha. Where will you take me? Sophie asked the eldest, trying in vain to intricate herself from the nude statue. It's been arranged, he said, replacing his hat, and he walked towards the door. We'll return this evening. But the attacks, Agatha cried. How will you stop them?
Your face, Jasmine, was hilarious.
For what?
When she was reading that last few signs, you're just like...
Well, I went back to read what she hid, and I'm like, wait, why is there a naked saint over the altar? I was just very confused. I just see, like, Sophie just clinging to it, like, I'm not here, I'm blending with the statue.
At first I thought she was naked, like, up against it, and then I was like, wait a minute.
Naked statue.
Yeah, and then, It took me a minute to process that, too, because I was like, Arranged, said the middle, following the eldest out. 8 o'clock, said the youngest, trailing behind them. Only Sophie. How do you know she'll be safe? Agatha panicked. All arranged, the eldest called, and locked the door behind them. The two girls stood in dumb silence before Sophie let out a squeal. See, I told you! She slid down the friends and smushed Agatha in a hug. Nothing can ruin our happy ending. Hubbling with relief, she packed her creams and cucumbers in her pretty pink suitcase. For who knew how long before they'd let her friend visit with more. She glanced back at Agatha's big dark eyes fixed out the window. Don't fret, Aggie. It's all arranged.
It's all arranged.
It's all arranged.
Just like what they said.
No, they're not lying.
I appreciate people who can just be like that. I'm like, I pray you don't die, but at the same time, it must be nice to just be that carefree. I'm like,
yeah, it's all arranged. We're all good.
We're fine.
We're fine. Everything's fine. Nothing's burning down.
Nothing.
Not that half the village is dead, and this is probably a
like
trap.
that meme with the dog in the middle of the fire. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Let me sip my tea. There is not an entire house ablaze around me.
But as Agatha watched the villagers shift through the ruins, glowering bloodshot at the church, she remembered the last time her mother had said the elders arranged things, and they hoped that this time they had better results. Before sunset, the elders allowed Stefan to come, who Sophie hadn't seen since he locked her in. He didn't look the same. His beard was overgrown, his clothes filthy, his body sallow and malnourished. 2 of his teeth were missing, and his left eye socket was bruised blue. With his daughter protected by the elders, the village had clearly expelled their frustrations on him.
Oh, shit.
Sophie forced a sympathetic look, but her heart twinged
But
her heart twinged with glee.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
I don't think the glee was because her dad was pain, but because the wedding got stopped.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how good she tried to be, the witch inside still wanted her father to suffer.
Oh, God, never mind.
She looked over at Agatha, chewing on her nails in the corner, pretending not to listen. Elders said it wouldn't be long, Stefan said. Once these cowards in the forest realize you've been hidden, sooner or later they'll come looking, and I'll be ready. He scratched at his blackened pores and noticed his daughter's wincing. I know I'm a sight. What you need is some good honey cream, scrub, Sophie said, digging into her bag of beauty products until she found a snakeskin pouch. But her father was just staring out the demolished town, eyes wet. Father? The town wants to give you up, but the elders will do anything to protect you, even with Christmas coming. They're better men than any of us, he said softly. No one in the town will sell me out now. How are we going to survive? He wiped his eyes. Sophie had never seen her father cry. Well, it's not my fault, she blurted. Stefan exhaled. Sophie, all that matters is that you get home safe. Sophie fiddled with a pouch of honey cream. Where are you staying? Another reason I'm unpopular, her father said, rubbing the blackened eye. Whoever's after you blasted the other houses in our lane, but left ours alone. Our food store's gone, but Hanara still finds a way to feed us every night.
Oh.
Sophie gripped the pouch tighter. Us? Boys moved into your room until all is safe and we can finish the wedding. Sophie spurted him with white globs. Stefan smelled the honey cream and instantly started coughing scrounging through her bag. Anything here that can help the boys eat? Agatha could see Sophie about to faint as she stepped in. Stefan, do you know where the elders will hide her? He shook his head. But they assure me the villagers won't find her either, he said, watching Sophie whisk her bag as far across the church from him as she could. Stefan waited until she was out of earshot. It's not the assassins we have to keep her safe from, he said. But But she can't last long alone, Agatha pressed him. Stefan looked through the window at the woods, shutting Galveston in, darkness and endless in the fading light. What happened when you were out there, Agatha? Who wants my daughter dead? Agatha still had no answer. Suppose the plan doesn't work, she said. We have to trust the elders, Stefan said, averting his eyes. They know the best. Agatha saw a pain in his clouded face. Stefan suffered worst of all. That's what her mother had said. I'll fix this somehow, Agatha said, guilt squeezing her voice. I'll keep her safe, I promise. Stefan leaned in and took her face in her hands. And it's a promise I need you to keep. Agatha looked into his scared eyes. Oh, good grief. They turned to see Sophie at the altar, bag clenched to her chest. I'll be home by the weekend, she frowned, and my bed better have clean sheets.
Okay. Put that on the to-do list.
Yeah, not to mention, the boys, they have no house now, so...
Yeah.
But clean sheets.
But clean sheets, and I want my room back, and I don't care what you do with the kids.
Sure thing.
Sure thing. All right.
On it.
As 8 o'clock approached, Sophie sat on the altar table, surrounded by dripping candles, listening to her stomach rumble. She had let her father take the last of the butterless bran oat crackers for the boys because Agatha had practically forced her. The boys would gag on them surely. That made her feel better. Sophie sighed. The schoolmaster was right. I am evil. Yet for all his powers and sorcery, he hadn't known there was a cure, a friend who made her good. As long as she had Agatha, she'd never be ugly, horrible witch again. When the church darkened, Agatha had resisted leaving her alone, but Stefan forced her. The elders had been clear, only Sophie. And now was not the time to disobey their orders, not when they were about to save her life. Without Agatha there now, Sophie suddenly felt anxious. Was this how Agatha used to feel about her? Sophie had treated her so callously back then, lost in her princess fantasies. Now she couldn't imagine a future without her. No matter how hard it was, she'd endure the days ahead in hiding, but only because she knew that she would have a friend at the end of it. Her friend who had become her real family.
That's very emotional. Shut up.
That's actually very
that's very sweet.
That's very good of her.
Yes.
So she has her good points. It's just not a whole lot of them.
Yes.
Just not a whole lot.
But then had Agatha. But then why had Agatha been acting so strange lately? The past month, Sophie had noticed a growing distance. Agatha didn't laugh as much on their walks as often and was often cold to the touch and seemed preoccupied with her thoughts. For the first time since they met, Sophie had started to feel she had more invested in this relationship. Then came the wedding. She had pretended not to notice Agatha's hand dripping, trembling in hers as if she wanted to slip out, as if gripping a terrible secret. Maybe I'm not as good as you think. Sophie's pulse hammered in her ears. Agatha's finger couldn't have glowed that day. Could it? She thought of her mother, who too had beauty, wit, and charm, who too had a friend she had long trusted, only to be betrayed by her and die broken and alone. Sophie shook off the thought. Agatha had given up a prince for her, almost given her life for her. Agatha had found them a happy ending against all odds. In the cold, dark church, Sophie's heart skittered out of beat. So why would she ruin our fairy tale? Behind her, the church doors creaked open. Sophie turned with relief and saw the shadows waiting with their gray cloaks, black hats in hand. Only the eldest was holding something else, something sharper.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
The problem with living in a graveyard is the dead have no need for light. Besides the flittering torches over the gates, the cemetery was pitch black at midnight, and anything beyond just an inky shadow. Peering through her window's broken shutters, Agatha caught the sheen of white tents down the hill, pitched to house those left homeless by the attacks. Somewhere out there, the elders were about to move Sophie to safety. All she could do was wait. I should have hidden near the church, she said, and licked a fresh scratch from Reaper, who still acted as if she was a stranger. Like a cat. You can't disobey the elders, said her mother, sitting stiffly on the bed, eyes on the mantel clock with the hands made of bones. They've been civil since you stopped the kidnappings. Let's keep it that way. Oh, please, Agatha scoffed. What could 3 old men possibly do to me? What all the men do in times of fear. Callus's eyes stayed on the clock. Blame the witch. Burn us at the stake, too, Agatha snorted, flopping onto her bed. Tension thickened the silence. She sat up and saw her mother's strained face, still staring ahead. You're not serious, Mother. Sweat beaded on Callus's lip. They needed a scapegoat when the kidnappings wouldn't stop. They burnt women? Agatha uttered in shock. Unless we married, that's what the storybooks taught them to do. But you never married, Agatha countered. How did you survive? Because I had someone stand up for me, her mother said, watching the bones strike 8, and he paid the price. My father? You said he was a rotten 2-timer who died in a mill accident. Callus didn't answer, gazing ahead. A chill prickled up Agatha's spine. She looked at her mother. What do you mean when you said Stefan suffered worst of all when the elders arranged his marriage? Callus's eyes stayed on the clock. The problem with Stefan is he trusts those he shouldn't. He always believes people are good. The long bone ticked past 8. Her shoulders slumped with relief. But no one is as good as they seem, dear, Callus said softly, turning to her daughter. Surely you know that. For the first time, Agatha saw her mother's eyes. There were tears in them. No. Agatha gasped, a red rash searing her neck. They'll say it was her choice, Callus rasped. You knew! Agatha choked, lurching for the door. You knew they weren't moving her. Her mother intercepted her. They knew you'd bring her back. They promised to spare you if I kept you here until... Agatha shoved her into the wall. Her mother lunged for her and missed. They'll kill you, Callus screamed out the window, but darkness had swallowed her daughter up. Without a torch, Agatha stumbled and tripped down the hill, rolling through the cold, wet grass until she barreled into a tent at the bottom. Muffling a frantic apology to a family who had been caught up in her cannonball, she dashed for the church between the homeless dozens, strewing beetles and lizards over fire, wrapping their children in mangy blankets, bracing for the next attack that would never come. Tomorrow the elders would mourn Sophie's valiant sacrifice. Her statue would be rebuilt, and the villagers could go on a new Christmas, relieved of another curse. With a cry, Agatha threw the oak doors open. The church was empty. Long, deep scratches ripped down the aisle. Sophie had dragged her glass slippers all the way. Agatha sank to her knees in the mud. Stefan. She had promised him. She had promised to keep his daughter safe. Agatha hunched over, face in her hands. This was her fault. This would always be her fault. She had everything she wanted. She had a friend she had loved. She had Sophie. And she had traded her for a wish. She was evil, worse than evil. She was the one who deserved to die. Please, I'll bring her home, she heaved. Please, I promise I'll do anything. But there was nothing to do. Sophie was gone, delivered to invisible killers for ransom for peace. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, Agatha wept, spit dripping. How could she tell her father his daughter was dead? How could either of them live with their broken promise? Her sobs slowly receded, curdling to terror. She didn't move for a long time. At last, Agatha slumped up in a nauseous gaze and staggered east towards Stefan's house. Every step away from the church made her feel sicker. Limping down the dirt lane, she vaguely felt something sticky and wet on her legs. Without thinking, she wiped a gob off her knee with her finger and smelled it. Honey cream. Agatha froze, heart pounding. There was more cream on the ground ahead, spurting in desperate trail towards the lake. Adrenaline blasted through her blood. Nibbling his toenails in his tent, Radley heard cracks behind him and turned just in time to see a shadow swipe his dagger and torch. Assassin! He squeaked. Agatha swung her head back to see men explode out of the tents and chased her as she tracked the honey cream like breadcrumbs towards the lake. She ran faster, following the trail, but soon the gobs turned smaller and smaller, and then sprayed to specks in every direction. As Agatha hesitated, searching for another sign to guide her, the men reached the lake, racing eastward around the shore towards her. But there were 3 figures across the lake hunting her from the west. In their torchlight, she saw the shadows of 3 long-cloaked beards, elders. They'd killed her. Agatha spun, waving the torch in front of her as both sides converged. "Sophie, where are you?" "Kill him!" she heard a voice's men cry from the mob. Agatha swiveled in shock. She knew his voice. "Kill the assassin!" The man screamed again as the mob ran towards her. Panicked, Agatha stuttered forward, swinging the torch at the trees. Something very heavy whizzed past her ear, another past her ribs. Then a sparkle flared ahead as she froze her flame on it. The empty honeycomb pouch lay at the forest edge, snake skin scales glittering. A hard cold blow smashed into her back. Agatha buckled to her knees and saw a jagged rock on the ground next to her. She turned to see more men aiming stones at her head, less than 50 feet away from the east. Rushing in the west, the elders held up their torches, about to glimpse her face. Agatha hurled her torch into the lake, plunging into the pitch darkness. With confused cry, the men whisked torches wildly to find the assassin. They saw a shadow sprint past them from the trees. Like lions to kill, they charged in a grunting, vengeful mob, chasing faster. One breaking from the pack just as the man who screamed for blood caught the assassin by the neck. The shadow whirled to face him. Stefan gasped in shock, long enough for Agatha to press her lips to his ear. "I promise." Then she was gone into the labyrinth like a white rose into the grave.
Wow, intense.
Was intense.
Yes. Dang.
Is Sophie alive? Well, of course she has to be alive, because I mean that would be a really messed up intro.
Yeah, and Sophie's dead.
Yeah.
Literally, this whole book is about Agatha trying to get back to Tedros because Sophie's dead.
Yeah.
Anyway, on a more realistic approach, yeah, that's kind of messed up, and those elders, man, we just keep hearing more and more about them. I do not like these people.
No.
They need to burn
I
at
had
the
a feeling
stake.
they were going to kidnap her anyway.
Mhm.
I'm like, that was blatantly obvious.
Mhm.
And Agatha should have known better.
Mm-hmm.
I just realized we never turned the ring light on.
I know. I noticed that midway. It's like I can't move because I'm at like my end.
All right.
That's okay. We'll do it for the next one.
Well, thank you guys for your patience. I know we are kind of
Sporadic.
slow to recording with life being so chaotic right now, but
Yes.
yeah.
Hang in there with us. We are recording.
We'll get there.
Yes.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. And once we reach 100 followers, we do have a 100 follower giveaway for one of you guys. Once we reach there, so keep subscribing.
We're getting really close.
We're close, so keep subscribing and keep watching, and just stay tuned for the next stuff.
For the giveaway, you guys gonna do that on Instagram or?
We're going to do it on here.
Okay.
Yes.
Very cool. All right.
Until next time.
Until next time. Bye.
I want you to keep it again.